Why does the black man serve the white man? Why does everything the black man do benefit the white man? Why does the black man say freedom is doing what I want to do? And why is it that everything he wants to do enriches the European?
Welcome to the desert of the real.
That's why, brothers, I'm putting in my bid to be a statesman or a diplomat for our new nation. I'm putting my resume in.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. I hear that.
Because I already know how to approach dealing with continental Africans, and especially like look at Aliko Dangote. This guy made $4.9 billion this year, and the year's not even over.
Right.
Could you imagine if we was to give contracts to our businessmen here in America, African American,
right,
to get some of those contracts? And that's just the cement that he's dealing with.
Yeah. He's building an oil refinery in Nigeria, the first ever oil refinery in Nigeria. You know, a $15 billion project. Nigeria is going to be able to produce gasoline and all kinds of fuel for its domestic use. Hundreds of billions of dollar project. Amazing thing is the Leke and the Echo City is going to be complete in 3 years. A new city on the Atlantic coast, the Gulf of Guinea. We have an opportunity to basically establish ourselves in Africa. We want to be able to establish ourselves in Africa. But the thing is, in America, we have to come to the table. Dangote will be like, okay, I do business, but do you have a united front of black construction companies?
Exactly.
And this is what I'm trying to tell people. Like when I started the Association of African American for Liberia, Emil Sestak and I created a model by which other organizations can create associations. Right? When you're an association, if you're an association of African American contractors and cement layers, right? You have a nationwide association, divided up into like 4 or 5 regions in the United States, and you have a regular meeting, stuff like that. You could basically say, okay, we're going to basically pool our money together and form an import company, and we're going to buy Dangote Cement, right? Dangote Cement Enterprise, right? And then we're going to basically be able to facilitate Dangote building a cement plant in the United States because we're going to be his number one customer.
Exactly.
Those are the sort of things we have to basically do, and everything. That's just basically what we have to do while we're in the United States. Then it's going to be like, well, we talk about going out here, like, oh, dang, man, you guys won't eat food. Yeah, man, there'll be businesses lined up around the globe to try to help us out.
Now, what he just described right there, that very specific thing that he described is Nationhood 101. And also, you don't have to go to Africa. You can stay right here in America. And that situation can still go down.
Those who want to stay in America, hey, we got something for you too. So those who want to go to Africa, hey, you can go there. I'm not saying people think when we talk nationhood, we tell you everybody pack the bags, get on the boat, and sail off to the coast. Not what we're talking about. We're saying we want to create a satellite, a base of operations on the continent. So we can basically have relationships with whoever we want to have relationships with outside the jurisdiction and sovereignty of the United States. We need our own sovereignty. When you have your own sovereignty, you control all the land to the core of the earth, to the atmosphere. Everything that comes in that atmosphere is what we control. Somebody, a fishing boat or airplanes, airspace, we have nothing. We have nothing protecting us in our community. We can protect ourselves.
Anything being built over here in the States, if the cement is not supplied by Dangote, something is wrong.
Right. We have to have an association. We have to have a business association of black-owned developers and hotel housing developers and cement layers and stuff like that. We have that organization, right? Just the board saying, yeah, something. This is what we came up with. We got this amount of money right here, and the bank's going to finance it. Whoever like that, then all the people who work in the government and everything like that, who use our political connect. This is what we call our cards in. We say, look, this is what we plan on doing. And if they don't come through, these black politicians don't come through, guess what? We're going to vote you out of office.
Now, you know what college just did just now? He answered the question that everybody seems to be asking us all the time. What can we do right here?
Right. Yes.
Yep. He just answered it. That's one thing, and that's only one thing. I don't know how we can explain it any better than we've been explaining it. I really don't see how I can do it. I'm running out of explanation.
Let me chime in on this real quick, brother. The beauty of the vision that you're articulating now, for those men and some women who are in these particular trades or whatever that's going to be nation building and business building, I find a lot of times that brothers and sisters are very, they get tired of the racism, they get tired of the lack of meritocracy, the corruption, and all that other stuff. What you're talking about right now gives them, and this is the word I love that y'all been using today, sanctuary. It gives you a sanctuary that you don't have to go through the BS of dealing with these crackers and having to come home and then you deal with your family and stuff like that. You can go to work and you know that if you give 1,000%, that, whatever you give, you're going to get back and then some or whatever. But you're not going to be swindled out of your money. You don't have to worry about your overtime being swindled. You don't have to worry about somebody being promoted over you that's not as good as you, things like that. So what this does for even a child psychology is it lets them know, listen, it used to be very hard back in the day, but now we have something for you that we can call our own. So when you get older, you're going to be working with daddy, or you're going to be working with mommy, or you're going to be working with your uncle in this particular, black-owned nation where we do this and we do that. You don't have to worry about some white person screaming on you for no reason and then playing the legal cards against you, saying that you're the antisocial one, or you're the, you're this or you're that. But when you try to take them to court, then basically nobody understands what the hell you're talking about.
We wouldn't even be dealing with that nonsense at all. What we're basically talking about is creating our own markets.
Right.
Our own internal markets that we control, where we don't have to deal with all of that BS.
Right.
We have our own commerce, our own businesses, and handle, basically, a key word is handle our own affairs.
Right.
That's the one thing about that with Liberia. We look at Liberia, the whites who supported Liberia back in the 19th century, the blacks who eventually took over the movement. Basically, they said this: black people, because back in those days, it was very clear black people had no power, no anything in America. White people weren't going to give an inch. And then every little thing black people wanted to do was controlled by white people. Still like that parts of the South in America, still like that to this day. Black people say we want to control our own affairs. Affairs mean we're going to be. It's going to be kumbaya. In Liberia they had fist fights sometimes, politicians. But at the end of the day, when they called the vote, the law was the law. And so basically they say you handle your own affairs. In America, you couldn't even have that conversation. Because your affairs are controlled by somebody else. That's like being a perpetual child.